Nvidia stock is down roughly 8% in the past 5 days, and unfortunately, earnings did not help the company at all. Now, what I've done a few videos on earnings and discussed why I believe earnings were amazing. Yesterday, I did a video explaining some of the macroeconomics impacting overall Nvidia. Now, another topic that I feel has been a big bearish case for Nvidia is we are seeing that Nvidia's Singapore revenue makes up a good portion of total revenue, but we have heard reports that only small single digits of deliveries are made to that country. So many are speculating that this is bad news. This is Nvidia kind of smuggling chips into regions that it's not supposed to. And on today's episode, I want to go a little bit more into this story and why investors should not worry. Now, too long, don't watch. There is a lot of reasons why this revenue segment here is higher than the amount of shipments being made, and it's not necessarily illegal. So not something that I would worry about. Now, another thing we're going to see is right now, Nvidia's PE ratio is pretty cheap. Luckily, if you watched my video about a day ago, a little bit over a day ago, when the stock was crashing and was sitting around 120, I mentioned that I am bullish at the stock prices of 120 and below. And I'm really happy about this because I mentioned in previous videos that Nvidia is a stock for patient investors. Now, if you want to learn more about the semiconductor market, I do have a free daily semiconductor newsletter. Make sure to check that out. WhatTheChipHappened.com.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see Nvidia down roughly 8%. But again, this long-term investors, even though the stock hasn't really moved much since June, it's still up 51% in the past year. And these are returns that normally don't happen. Obviously, if you sold in June 17th of 2024, you're doing amazing, but that's a-okay. And that's only if you found another stock that is going to do something in the past few months. For me, I personally enjoy not worrying about my portfolio that much. There might be quarters, years that a stock not done move, but then out of nowhere, you can see massive price reaction. And I don't want to miss that. And I do believe Nvidia can do that in the far future. Now, like I mentioned, we do have kind of this DeepSeek issue. So about a week ago, we saw this report. DeepSeek GPU smuggling probe shows NVIDIA's Singapore GPU sales are 28% of its revenue, but only 1% are delivered to the country report. And now the company, NVIDIA, just reported their 10K report, and they even showcased this. They said Singapore had about $23 billion in revenue for their fiscal year of 2025. This was much higher than 2024 and much higher than 2023. And Singapore represents 18% of fiscal year 2025 total revenue based upon customers' billing locations. Customers use Singapore to centralize invoicing while their products are almost always shipped elsewhere. Shipments to Singapore were less than 2% of fiscal year 2025 total revenue. So the reason why they do this, so we can see NVIDIA even acknowledges that the shipment doesn't go to Singapore itself. So Singapore is a popular choice for centralizing billing for many large multinational companies due to its favorable tax regime, world-class infrastructures, and strategic location. This means that even if the physical products, such as servers or chips, are shipped elsewhere, the invoicing can be handled from a Singapore entity. And they kind of talk a little bit about some examples. For example, companies like Dell or other semiconductors may set up regional headquarters or billing centers to streamline invoicing and take advantage of those favorable taxes. And this practice isn't unique to NVIDIA's reporting. It's a common strategy among companies operating complex international supply chains. Again, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to have better taxes. Here we can see Google Cloud actually has a subsidiary in Singapore called Google Singapore. And this company operates within Singapore and is primarily focused on the data processing and hosting services related to cloud. Here we also have Dell. Dell has one in Singapore as well called Dell Asia Holdings. So if they do have kind of great forms of tax benefits there, you can see that maybe Google Cloud might be purchasing through this segment and be shipping elsewhere. Same with Dell Asia, right? They could be purchasing here and prefer those tax benefits on some of these products. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible for Nvidia's chips to be getting to China. I do believe that is happening. But to kind of bring this bearish thesis, and this is what I'm trying to combat, this massive bearish thesis that all this revenue is going to disappear. And I feel so wild that I think everybody's trying to have that aha moment that, so look, I'm the one who found the crack for Nvidia. And then people, I've seen in my comments, they read one quick post and they believe they're a genius in this market and they believe that this is going to be the end. So many comments in my YouTube will say, what do you think is going to happen once the market realizes that $23 billion of revenue is going to China? I don't think that's the case. There might be maybe a few hundred millions, but to kind of think 23 billion is slipping through these cracks, that's not, I don't think that's anywhere near true. But we are seeing that the Singapore police is taking actions, and supposedly in recent reports, 3 people allegedly linked to shipping Nvidia's AI GPUs to China charged by Singapore police. So, and there's been others that have been arrested. I think about 9 have been arrested based on this report. So it's not impossible, but to believe the bearish thesis for Nvidia is that it's going to lose out this $23 billion of Singapore, I think you should wake up and maybe stop investing for a while. Now, so that's the main topic I want to talk about, Singapore. Now, there was another case, and this is the first topic I was talking about. I was fighting a bearish case, and I always get this talk, Jose, you're a permabull. I don't think I'm a permabull. I've discussed plenty of times in my videos that the AI needs to continue to innovate for Nvidia to win. If AI doesn't innovate at fast levels, that could be really, really bad news for Nvidia. I personally believe AI is going to continue to evolve and innovate at rapid speeds. That doesn't mean you need to think that, right? So everybody needs to know what their thesis is, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest, if AI, and I'm wrong, if AI doesn't evolve and I'm wrong, then this stock can definitely take quite a hit. Now, there was this bullish segment that I've been seeing a lot on X. And again, this is going to be the best place you're going to find any semiconductor news, as I try to bring both the bearish to light and try to also calm maybe some of the bullish scenarios that I feel are not warranted. So there have been posts a lot where, this is Nvidia's total buybacks in their previous quarter, quarter 4. They bought about 55 million shares last quarter. Now, out of that 55 million shares, this company in this first month of first quarter, so not even the first month, between January 27th to February 21st, the company bought 29 million shares. So in 1 month of this quarter, the company bought more than 50% of the shares that they bought for the whole last quarter, which is 3 months. So many people are saying, hey, look, this is a bullish case. This means Nvidia believes its stock is super undervalued and they're just buying like crazy. That could be a scenario, but another scenario that could happen is if we look at their previous quarter, we can see that for the first month, October to November 24th, the company bought about 25 million shares as well. So maybe just based on this pre-established trading plan, the first month is one that they do the heavy purchasing. So again, many are saying that it's very bullish that the company bought over 50% of the purchases in just 1 month compared to last quarter. To me, I think it's more just their trading establishing plan. So this is not something that I would put in the bullish case, right? So I wanted to kind of calm this bullish scenario as well. Now, there are some other talks. AMD just recently announced their new RTX or RX XT RX line. I believe it's RX RT. I forget what they're called, but the RX, yep, RX 970 XT. And the great thing that they're saying is, hey, look, we're not. They even mentioned we're not providing you the type of performance that Nvidia has with their 5080 and their 5090, but we can provide you 5070 Ti performance level for $150 less. So they're trying to play that very similar case that they did with Intel in the GPU for the consumer space, where we're not going to be the best performers, but we're going to be the best price to performance ratio. So here they can say that they provide it's about $150 cheaper in 4K settings, and you only lose about 2% performance. Personally, I wouldn't be too worried about this for Nvidia. I mean, Nvidia right now is truly dependent on the data center market. Also, I don't think they're going to lose much market share here. It is possible that AMD gains some in here, which would be really good for AMD because a few extra $1 million in the gaming segment can be a great way that this company can beat earnings expectations dramatically. Nvidia, on the other hand, losing a few $1 million in the revenue in the gaming market isn't necessarily going to move anything. Because Nvidia is such a big player in the data center market, AMD doesn't have to beat Nvidia, but even if it does small crumbs here and there, it can outperform the overall stock market in general. Now, the final thing I want to talk about, no, there's two more things I want to talk about. So Nvidia does have some big upcoming events in the financial community. On March 3rd, we have TD Cowen's annual healthcare conference. So we're going to hear a little bit more about the healthcare space. I'm going to be curious here because I just want to continue to see how AI and healthcare continues to innovate. Maybe the one I'm more excited about out of these two is on March 5th. We're going to have Morgan Stanley's Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference. So we might hear a little bit more about maybe how the market is moving in the data center GPU space. Now, the best one, obviously, is GTC in mid-March, and that's the one where we're going to get all the cool products coming out. Now, the final thing I wanted to mention here is there are reports that HBM has become a really strong milestone for SK Hynix, as there are reports that they have achieved 70% yield in 12-layer HBM4. Now, this is very important because I do believe HBM4 12-layer is what's going to go onto the Rubin platform. I'm going to try to post out their GPU mark and just look for Rubin and see if it is HBM4 12-layer. But this is what you want to see. You want to see the HBM market continue to innovate, because then this means that there's not going to be much delays in any supply chain issues. I'd mentioned one of my biggest fears for Nvidia is that it's now dependent on so many players innovating at rapid levels. It's dependent on memory companies continue to innovate their memory solutions. Now, if, for example, SK Hynix or Micron are not able to deliver, then that could push Nvidia's annual cadence down. But as long as we see this positive news that companies are innovating, then it makes me a little bit ease on the supply chain market. Regardless, I think Nvidia anywhere around the 120s is a great for nice dollar cost averaging, building a position. And after the recent earnings, I am very, very excited for this quarter. So take care. I hope you guys learned a lot about the Singapore revenue, right? Hopefully this calms a lot of maybe fears about the Singapore space. And maybe some bears might say, hey, look, maybe I shouldn't just read one place and figure it out, think that I know everything, right? So, yeah, make sure if you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up and subscribe button.